Okay, so now that we've covered our UI and what all the buttons are, let's talk about the champions that we're going to be using. Specifically for this video, it'll be the core champions. Champions that everyone has access to at the start of the game, based on how much gold you can accumulate. So this will go over very broad terms of who they are and what specialization you're going to want to pick for them until you know more about the game to make those decisions for yourself. So to start, we have Bruenor, the Shield Dwarf. So you're going to click his upgrade button until you get to a specialization. Now Bruenor has 2 specializations, as most champions do. There are some that have 3. He can either be a champion and focus on his own power. Not a lot of people pick that, but you might at the very beginning, because generally it's not going to matter too much, but it will quickly change to where you're going to want to become a battle master for Bruenor. And this is a theme throughout Idle Champions as it stands now. The main goal is to buff a single champion the best way you can. So we do this by picking Rally. What Rally does is it buffs all the champions that are in the same column as him. So right now, he's in this column, and you see the little, when you hover over him, the green arrows. That says that he is buffing both this bird person and this musician lady. Names later. And when we move him around, he's increasing the damage of different people. And you saw how, like, oh, it went down, right? Red damage means it went down. More down, not so great. Here he's not buffing anyone. Green, huge spike. Teaching you, like, kind of the fundamentals of where you want to place people. Next up, we have Celeste, our lovely cleric. We click her until she wants to upgrade, or until she wants to specialize. And here we're faced with a choice: War Domain versus Life Domain. As it stands now, healing doesn't matter. It at the highest levels where we call the soft cap, where there are no more upgrade buttons or upgrade icons. There's no increased damage, like by 100%. It's like, okay, you get a little bit. Healing there is nowhere near what it needs to be to even sustain yourself at that current wave, which you're probably farming. So the life domain will never get picked until there's a chance in the future there is a tanking and healing update that's probably going to come out right when I publish this video and make this worthless. But things will change, but that update will get its own video. So as it stands now, pick the war domain. She will buff all the champions that are around her. So we see that every champion that, okay, well, so there's 2 things that are going on here for the green arrows. We see that she's buffing someone behind her, under her, and then she has 3 arrows for in front of her. She has 2 effects. One is the heal. You see this, the 4, 7, 8. That goes to the column in front of Celeste. These 4 are currently being buffed by her Crusader's Mantle. So if we go here, wow, that's poor, but probably because he's such a great DPS. Give it time. She's buffing everyone around her. Next, don't worry, we're gonna see how this all fits together for like an optimal formation once we've gone down the line. Okay, we're just establishing roles. Actually, Nayeli is probably the most important champion that you're gonna have, because when we upgrade her, again, 2 choices. One is increase other people's damage, and then increase the health and tanking capabilities of her. The Oath of Devotion is fine in some variants, but for the most part, your default choice is gonna be Oath of Vengeance. And what this does is Nayeli will buff the column behind her. And hopefully you're getting this idea of, okay, same column for Brunor, adjacent area for Celeste, column behind for Nayeli. So her being our tank, we want her up front and center. There's also another reason for this. Something that isn't picked by a specialization, but it's shown in the Oath of Protection, or Aura of Protection. Whenever Nayeli is being attacked, she'll increase the damage of all champions by a whole bunch of %. So once you're at your wall and you have a bunch of enemies attacking Nayeli, one, she's super tanky without the tanking specialization, so she'll be fine. But two, she's also increasing the damage of whoever is behind her, like your main DPS. And generally, where this purple guy is, Minsk, that's where your main DPS is gonna be. Because we have the column agreement with Brunor. He's buffing Minsk. Nayeli is buffing the column behind, and then Minsk is adjacent to Celeste. Going to the next slot, we have Jarlaxle. Jarlaxle will be very nice to you guys early on because he helps you. He just has a passive gold buff, a gold find buff. So it'll help you accumulate 10, 22, 30, whatever. It's in multiplicatively stacking gold find. So he's pretty good for the early gold finding boost that you might need, but he is quickly replaced by other champions that provide more party DPS. And his two specializations are Loner or Socialite. Loner means no one can be in front of him, and he'll just have a whole ton of damage. Socialite, you need 3 various races adjacent to him for him to get a increased damage. This one's not going to matter too much. I would say generally, if Jarlaxle is being your main DPS, you're going to pick Socialite because someone will be in front of Jarlaxle. It's the nature of the game. We'll move him over there. Look at that. Huge DPS increase because my Jarlaxle is very strong. And Jarlaxle is interesting because he attacks creatures from behind. Most everyone goes forward. He kind of peeks around and comes at it from this angle. Sorry, green screen reversing. And then here we see, oh look, all gold found by 10%. So we'll actually scroll down to, oh, I should have covered that in the other video. But anyway, here we have 2 gold find buffs. And if you want to know more about your champion, like, oh, what upgrades did I have? When you click on the portrait, which I should have covered in the first video, my bad, we see the current % buffs of all of your champion. There's a swap to see, like, if you wanted to actively swap there. There's upgrades, which tell you what level gave you what. And it's nice to see, like, oh, wait, what did I just pick? Or how much does that give me? Because here we see Crusader's Mantle, which is currently buffing my character, or my champions that are next to Celeste by 3,000%. Pretty good. And then buffs are incoming, outgoing. It's good to know what's affecting that character and see if your formation is meshing well. But this video should help you never have to look at that until you know what you're doing. So, next slot, Calliope, one of my favorite bards. She is super awesome. For here, you're going to be picking College of Valor because we want to increase damage. Damage. The theme of this game is the best defense is a great offense. You don't need healing if you never get hit, right? So all this stuff is dying in one hit. Who needs temp HP? Psh, not us. The thing for Calliope is she buffs everyone in the column in front of her. So here we have, okay, Nayeli's for everyone behind, like the column behind her. Calliope is the one in front, and it's just the one in front. So Calliope is not buffing the damage of Nayeli, who's here, and Nayeli is not buffing any of these columns damage. It's just the one immediately behind, and Calliope is the one immediately in front. So now Jarlaxle is benefiting from a whole bunch of buffs, which you can also tell if you click on Jarlaxle. You can say, okay, outgoing, doesn't matter for Jarlaxle, incoming, benefiting from Rally from Brunor, whatever, Jarlaxle, Crusader's Mantle from Celeste, or of Courage from Nayeli, and Bardic Inspiration from Calliope. This is going great. Another small tactical thing you might want to pay attention to for Calliope is she will give temporary HP to someone who is hit within 2 slots of her. So when you hold this, for your basic formation, that's going to be everyone, because you're going to put her in the middle column, and everyone is 2 slots away from her. So not much to worry about there. So we have Calliope. I like putting her at top, just because. Why that damage went down, I don't know. But it shouldn't matter. Why does that matter? I actually don't understand. Anyway. So next we have Ashara, our bird person. And like right when you unlock her, you're going to be faced with a specialization. Now this is an important one because all of these affect damage. And this is where you decide who is going to be my main DPS for this run. Generally, I would say at the very beginning, it's going to be elves and dwarves. Elves and dwarves, hands down, because you're gonna Jarlaxle is gonna be your first damage unlock, really, and then before that is also Brunor, who's in the same column, so they're both benefiting from that. So Brunor and Jarlaxle are a good combo in the beginning. Then after that, you're gonna be humans for a really long time, and then Tiefling, Firbolg, Dragonborn is kind of not there yet. There are Tiefling options, but not for core champions, mostly. So we'll just, I don't know, it doesn't matter here. We're going to pick human. Because after Ashara, once you can get Minsk is a beast. My Jarlaxle out damages my Minsk based on my gear, which will be different for you. So play around with your formation, see who's a better damage dealer. Who best fits in this slot, this specific spot in the formation. So Minsk. Minsk is a human fighter who gives you the ability to do increased damage to a specific type of enemy, just like a ranger. So here I'm seeing a lot of beasts, and if you want to know what they are and things aren't dying super quickly, you can kind of tell. These have E34 health, which is nice to know when you hover over it, and it'll say the type. So if you're stuck on a specific wave type and things aren't dying really quickly, so you can actually just hover and read, you can close this, find out, and then here it'll be ready for you to click again. You can pick, so like, oh, I'm having a hard time on beasts. Boom, all of a sudden all the beasts will have a little indicator under them saying, hey, I'm taking increased damage. Good stuff. And also what you saw there was an interesting way to prevent leveling up people. If you get to a specialization and you just close out, and you will eventually replace champions, like, okay, they're your starter champions, but you're going to rotate them out near the end of your run. If you don't want to waste gold on them, leave their specialization undone, and you won't have to worry about that. Now that's kind of niche. Don't worry about that too much. Again, you'll figure it out on your own. Delana. Who? A joke for Dillon. This is the main core champion for this slot, and I say that because in the first video we talked about the newsletter. You click on the newsletter, you sign up, you get some gold chests for perpetuity and eternity, and you get Hich. So first we'll cover Delana. Delana is a specialized damage, meaning that she does not benefit the party DPS really whatsoever. Just like Jarlaxle. Jarlaxle doesn't have any like increased damage to the party based on even his items. Very selfish, right? Here, Delana has a little bit in the form of her orb, but past that, not a lot of party buffs. So she is another specialized damage. So we'll click her, and you have options for Font of Magic or Endless Empowerment. Now, I'll say this doesn't matter, because you're never going to use Delana as it stands right now. Really what you're going to do is you're going to click this little arrow. You're going to go to Hich. You're going to say swap. And you're going to say, what up, Hich? Oh, Hich is so good. So first off, Hich is a badass. If you haven't watched Force Grey, watch it. He's amazing. Great. Love the player and the character. Super awesome. But we're focusing on the game here. So not only does Hich buff all damage for champions with his 3rd item slot, he also has his 4th item slot, which increases the effect of his friendly. So Hich is in an interesting spot where, depending on his gear, he can be your main damage or a support. What's really interesting is his friendly buff affects himself. So whenever you are asked to upgrade, you're gonna almost always want to pick charismatic, because you're doing the same amount of damage with less hits with charismatic. Again, this is very low level, not complex, what about variance or whatever type of decision making. This is just helping you, what do I do? What do I pick? Help me learn. And then you can figure stuff out as you're idling. So we're going to pick charismatic because, man, we really want to buff everyone whose charisma score is 13 or higher. And this is probably the first time where charisma, or where your stat block comes into play. So here we have a charisma 14. Boom. Benefiting from charismatic. Hich is going to be one of your favorite champions to get gear for and level, and he's just a dream. What's also nice about Hich, as well as these past 3 champions, is they don't require a specific slot in the formation. Now, they have to be in the formation to offer the buff. Like we take out Hich, all of a sudden our damage went down by a lot, because he's not in the formation to give friendly or all damage from his boots. So we need him there. That's a frequent question asked, like, hey, if someone's on the bench, do they buff anything? No, 0%. But from what you see now, we're starting to get close to what your formation is going to look like. You have your main damage here where Jarlaxle is, or whoever your main damage is, Minsk, whatever. Hey, it didn't really move too much that time. Okay, yes it did. Oh, it's because Nayeli died. We'll just buffer a whole bunch. There we go. Yeah, okay. He ain't gonna die anytime soon now. So, boom. All right, a little bit of increase for Minsk. Probably because of the Ashara specialization. But here, this is a pretty good looking formation right now. The next slot is Makos. Makos is awesome. And choosing his specialization is actually kind of tricky. For simplicity's sake, you're going to pick Dark Blessing, because the golden rule, increase other people's damage. Good. So you're going to select that. And for everyone who is not adjacent to Makos, their damage will increase by a whole bunch of %. So Ashara and Hich are not benefiting from Dark Blessing, but everyone else is. Now, this lends to the idea of you're going to want to focus one person. So we have one person getting all of these buffs and just rising them up to the top. The weird case with Makos is if you want to do something called alt farming, and that's going to be in a separate video because it's too complicated to cover at this moment right now. The next, oh wait, I almost forgot. There is another core slot. This might be a spoiler, I'm sorry. But in the core slots, you also get Dristo Erden. Bum, bum, bum. So Drizzt has some interesting mechanics. He could be your main DPS. He could be a support DPS, depending on how many Champions of the Hall that you have. Right here, Champions of the Hall. For every other member of Champions of the Hall in the formation, Drizzt's damage is increased by a whole bunch, and everyone else's is by half that. So who are the Champions of the Hall? That's a great question. I know it's Brunor. I don't think Celeste. I'm pretty sure not Celeste. I actually don't know. Who else? No. 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 Caddybree is Champion of the Hall, and then I think Regis as well. Anyway, we'll figure that out in a different video. Solved it. Anyway, his specialization you're gonna want to pick, I don't think matters here. There was like a kind of min-maxy thing, like, oh, which one's better? For the most part, they're really close to each other. Just pick one that ever sounds cooler. So like increases the number of yeah, all right, multiple attacks, cool. Or AoE, primary target. It's like, okay, are you at a wave? Are you stacking a whole bunch of stuff up? Because then the World of Steel would be better, like given X number of people on Nayeli, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So here we have Dristo Erden with his little weapons. Anyway, I'm going to go back to using Makos because he's a better buffer for me. The next slot we have is Tyrell, the amazing druid. So here, I guess, marks our first spot where we have to decide, who do we get rid of? Our formation's full. So this guy's really good. So here, early on, you get to choose a specialization. And early on's like relative, like we've been doing this for however long. But early on in his upgrade levels after unlocking, you have two choices. Either wild shape, you turn into a bear and you get a whole bunch of HP, or again, buffing other people's damage, moonbeam. Pick moonbeam. Yeah. So Tyrell is interesting because you want him to not be near as many people as possible. He has a weird personal bubble of buffing. So Makos has free reign to move really wherever, so we can just shift him with a Shara, maybe move that here. Because I'm going to get rid of Jarlaxle. Jarlaxle's not really doing anything for my party, and I don't need his gold buff right now. Or I'm past benefiting from the gold buff. So I'm going to take Tyrell, click and drag, bring him over there, boom. He is adjacent to two people, which is generally as good as you're going to get. There have been some events which were really, really sweet and prevented or allowed Tyrell to only be adjacent to one person. Now, I'm getting to the point where I'm at a wave where I can't just be doing click damage. So I'm going to set up my familiars to buff really heavy hitters and press on with my life. And we're also going to buff up our main damage, Minsk, for right now. Because this next slot is going to crush Minsk. Jamila, the barbarian. She is great. If you can get Jamila, you're going to be happy. She hits like a truck, and her upgrades actually, like, there is a distinct what is better given a certain circumstance. You're gonna mostly want to pick Uncanny Speed, unless you have an event champion named Barrowin. If you don't have her, don't worry about it. If you do have her, you want slower attacks because that means more hammer stacks, buffs. It'll be covered in a different video for sure, because Barrowin's super strong, but you're going to want to pick Uncanny Speed because at the higher levels, it tops out brute strength almost every time. So you're going to pick that and, upgrade or whatever. Wow, we actually hit like, hey, I'm gray. Oh, and then we're going to move her. Boom. Look at all that damage. I added an extra 0 to the end of my damage. 10 times more. Our final slot, our slot 12, because that's however many slots that we have at the moment, is Archon. And I have an Archon shirt somewhere here. Archon is sweet, played by Joe Manganiello from Critical Role and other stuff. I want to say Force Grey. Yeah. He is a secondary tank. Now, unfortunately, you're really not going to use him too much because this is your formation. We got to it. This is what you want your formation to look like 9 times out of 10. But for whatever sake, we're gonna go over Archon. So Archon, secondary tank, pretty cool. He loves being in the first position, like the up front tanking slot. Once you get to specialization, my personal choice is Chango Restrained, because I prefer Archon's main ultimate, which is like a fire breath cone. It does a lot of damage, and I don't really appreciate the Chango's alt anyway. But furthermore, Archon, if he's below 50%, regenerates his own health to a pretty respectable degree, and that might help you sustain at high levels to eke out those last number of kills. So I always pick that, and then playing with all this stuff. Anyway, so that is all of the core champions that we have. We covered, let me open up my notes. We established the standard roles for each of them and specializations, what to pick. and then we gave you a default formation. I hope this helped you get into the next stage of progression. The next video, there's an important note. So sometimes your formation will change based on variants. At a later time, once variants are replayable, we'll just go over all of them on their own. Like, hey, here's a video for this variant, and here's all the options you can get. But as it stands now, core champions are pretty much like, I only have these, and event champions will help you supplement where those holes are, because sometimes some characters are restricted. Champions, characters, whatever. I guess the final note for this is there could be a different formation for farming versus progressing. If you want to use Makos's Dark Luck, you can put him in the main slot, and then hopefully you have an event champion to replace Jamila, because she's not really doing much for party damage. But with Makos's Dark Luck, or you can put him in either this main farming spot and then he'll generate gold there, or if you're at a specific point in your wall, get to the Dark Luck spot. So his ult is Circle of Death, right? Now, ultimate damage is a little interesting, where it's based on party damage, not the character's damage. So we scroll over here. Actually, let's click, right? His main attack does E44 damage. And this is why I like scientific notation, by the way, instead of like T's and quanta whatevers. 44. That's 44 zeros at the end of that, 42 at the end of 4.92000000, right? 42 of those. Circle of Death does E60 damage. Again, it's based on party damage. So if you have a whole bunch of enemies attacking your Nayeli, and Jamila's like having a hard time keeping up with stuff, which, I mean, you might do that by design. You just have Makos chilling in the back, and then drop the ult, which is on a pretty decent cooldown. Yours will be a lot longer. It's based on gear, but every enemy that he kills generates more money. So there's a guide that Silissa made that articulates how to best do that. I've never really done it, but if you want to do that, that's a great resource to check out. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this and benefited from this. The next video will be how to get stronger. We'll be going over resets, gold find, gems, and chests, basically getting to the point where you can have this formation, because this does take a lot of resets. Have a good day, and I hope to see you next time.